BRUCAST is back, baby.
This BRUCAST episode is brought to you by the BRUCAST Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
BRUCAST is back, baby. Feel the rhythm shake. Hear the guitar wailing. Let the music break.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BRUCAST also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BRUCAST on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links on the description below. Hey there, BRUCAST fans, you know what time is it? It's time to talk about the giveaway again. Just subscribe. It's that easy. If you are subscribed already, you'll be then running to win this awesome cap at the end of January 2025. We did a giveaway already. It was a huge success. We gave away one of those caps already, and we're doing it again. So it's very easy to enroll, to participate. All you have to do is subscribe. It's very easy. And then we're going to be giving away this beautiful, awesome, exclusive cap to one of you. And again, this will happen at the end of January 2025. And then that's it. Thanks again, everyone, for being part of such an amazing part of the BRUCAST community. And yeah, subscribe. Our guest today is Michael Anderson. All right, Michael, how are you doing, my friend?
Great. I'm great. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm eager to talk with you about politics. Before anything, I just remember, I think World War III is about to happen. What is going on? I saw that Biden, like he wanna end his period as a president, starting a war. Is that the case?
Well, I think it's a dirty trick that he's trying to play on Trump, because an outgoing president who's going to be gone in 2 months should not be making major policy decisions that impact the world. So it's a very negative thing. Now, he's been sitting on that idea for a year because Zelensky asked to use long-range missiles a year ago, and it's curious that he decided to do it now. Like I said, it's suspicious. Oddly, the European community is very much in favor of it, which surprises me, because if it escalates tension with Russia, you folks are closer to Russia than we are. So it's very confusing and I think inappropriate.
It sounds like inappropriate. He's about to move on and start, Trump is taking over. Trump is going to take over whatever happens. It sounds very
right.
So what do you think his true motive is? Like, he's just want to, well, create a bad time for Trump, or like, what's the point of all
I don't
this?
know. I don't know. It's a mystery. Now, there is another more logical answer, and that is that they want to put pressure on Putin so that when Trump negotiates the end of the war, they have more leverage. So if they tell Putin, we've got these long-range missiles, we're going to shoot at you, and we're going to keep doing it, and then that gets him more interested in stopping the war, there is some logic there. But to me, it feels like more danger than not. Now, I read something today that said Putin is always threatening the nuclear option, and no one thinks he'll really use it. I don't know if we're willing to take that risk. So it's a touchy subject.
Do you think that Biden knows what's going on?
No. He's not running the country, and he hasn't run the country probably for this whole year. And his debilitating condition was hidden from the public during the whole primary process. And the truth of that is proven by the fact that when he came to the debate and in June and performed so awfully, the big donor Democrats' minds exploded because they saw that they were putting their money into a loser. And obviously they didn't know what the true situation was, but they got him out as quickly as they could once they saw that.
Mm-hmm. Did you see? I think yesterday he was in Brazil, and he gave a short conference, and afterwards he just started wandering into the into the forest.
To the rainforest, right? He did.
Wow, it's like it's awkward. It sounds like something. It looks like something is off. What it is, I don't know. Maybe he's just too old. That's the impression that I get from as an outsider, right? And you mentioned like they saw him as a loser. His own. That's what you said. His own party saw him as a loser.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. What a situation to be in. You know, you're the president of the United States, and your own party see you as a loser. So they how do you say in English? Sidetracked him. That's the correct term.
Well, they talked him into resigning his candidacy. They put pressure on him to do that. They said they'd withhold money, campaign money, from him if he stayed in, so that he would not have enough campaign funds to run the campaign, and that if he stayed in, it would hurt the Democratic Party in terms of the congressional seats that they would lose because of the votes he would lose.
I see. Would you think that it would be a good idea to have like an age limit to be president?
That's argued about all the time here. I personally am in favor of it for president and for Congress because there are too many people who get entrenched and last longer than their shelf life. I mean, they just stay in because of the amount of money they're able to make through contributions and other benefits, and they get used to that lifestyle and they don't want to give it up. They don't want to give up the power. And there's, all kinds of cases, there data on this stuff, like, Joe had $9 million when he was elected. Now he has 180 million. What happened? Where'd that money come from? He didn't win the lottery. So you get enriched and you get used to it and you don't want to give it up. I don't know if you realize this, but when Joe ran in 2020, he said, I agreed to be a one-term president.
Did he?
Because there were concerns about his mental acuity even then. But then he got used to it and he liked it, and his big ego came into play, and he said, well, I'm running again.
Man, human greed. So where the money came from, do we know?
No.
To this day, we do not know. Okay.
You never know. Billionaires.
Okay, so if Joe Biden is not running the country, that's a very, very touchy subject. So who is behind the whole thing?
Well, his deputies, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, probably, the Attorney General. They are it's kind of like on autopilot. And there's a lot of upset Americans about it, primarily on the right, because the United States has very strict laws about the competency of the president. There's an amendment called the 25th Amendment, which Congress is allowed to enact, which can force the replacement of a president. So if the Congress voted by majority to remove Biden, he would be removed. But they control enough Congress because the Democrats control the Senate. They can prevent that from happening.
They are all favoring from Biden not being able to, being old. And I don't want to use this term like a puppet because it sounds too I don't know, just cynical, but that's what it feels like. So they're all benefiting from this. They're all basically making their own decisions, from what I can tell, without actually getting his approval.
Well, he is consulted, but I think in a lot of cases he's told what to do, or he's given options that are stated in a way that makes him decide in favor of what his deputies want to have happen. So,
But then, that's not democracy, right?
right. It's not democracy. Well, it's the executive bureaucratic state running the country and not the president. It's the executive branch, but it's not the president. So you're right. It's a violation of democratic principles.
Gosh. How? Like, I wonder how, like, this happened. Like, how a nation can allow this to happen, like, reach this state of things, I wonder.
Well, I'll give you a quick history lesson if it makes sense to do that. So, after George Bush was president, then Obama was elected president. And then Trump appeared in 2016 because he decided to run for president. Everybody knows that. But the reason Trump appeared is he's a populist candidate. And populist candidates appear when the government is not working. Populists and third parties come into being when the people decide that the two major parties are not doing anything for their benefit. So there was a period in, say, between 2000 or 1995 and 2010 or 15 when the Democratic Party redefined itself and began to embrace the billionaire class in Silicon Valley. Mark Zuckerberg and Apple and all those huge companies, and they got rid of or discarded one of their traditional constituencies, which was the white middle class and lower middle class non-union worker. So that very large group of people had no representation. So then Trump appears and says he will represent them. And that becomes the MAGA population, the MAGA people.
Make America
so
great again.
Wins because Hillary Clinton took her election for granted and didn't underestimated the MAGA people and assumed she would win easily, and she got upset by Trump. For Trump's first term, everybody on the left did what they could to keep him from being successful because he's a populist. And because he's a populist, first of all, he's a rich man. He can't be bribed. He doesn't need the money. Second of all, he's not part of the establishment. He makes his own mind up. He can't be influenced by anybody. So the career politicians, both on the left and right, can't stand that. That means they're losing control. So they did everything they could to destroy him. They impeached him twice. They accused him of crimes 6 times, and they tried to assassinate him twice. So he's been attacked more than any other president in history. And for him to even decide to run in 2024 is amazing because he could have just retired and counted his money. But he wanted to do it because he wanted to try and fix the problems the country has, which is a very noble purpose. So he runs, and then his MAGA organization, this large body of middle-class Americans, have enough power to get him nominated and prevent anybody else from being nominated. So he becomes the nominee. And so then the Democrats are in the same position again. We got to stop this guy from running or winning, hence the 6 fake indictments that he was put under and all the trials and all that stuff, all of which failed because they weren't the truth. And then when Biden dropped out, he endorsed Kamala Harris to be the nominee, which kind of tied the hands of the Democrats. They kind of had to go with her because he endorsed her. She was an awful candidate.
Why you say that? Why you say that?
Well, I'll get that in a second.
Okay.
He said when he named her that she was a DEI candidate. I'm hiring her, I'm nominating her to run with me because she's black and she's a woman. He said that. So she was an awful candidate because, I mean, she ran in 2019. She tried to run against Joe when he first got nominated. She ran a horrible campaign. She never won a single primary. She never got a single delegate. Her campaign staff was disorganized, unhappy, people quitting all the time. They couldn't stand her behavior. So the Democratic Party forgot about that for 4 years, and now she becomes the presidential candidate, and she has the same baggage. I don't know if you've listened to her talk or be questioned or anything, but she is unable to answer any question that's asked of her.
Oh,
all she does is provide what we call a word salad. Fancy philosophy around the question that doesn't get to the answer.
Yeah, I've seen some TikToks and Instagram reels of her describing the cloud. Someone asked her, "What is the cloud?" And she's like, "The cloud is up there and it's everywhere." It sounds like she was just making up on the spot. She was not like, she did, instead of saying, "I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna look it up," she just started making it up, and that doesn't convey a lot of trust, you know. But
well, she's a unique personality because somehow, someplace earlier in her life, she was intimidated by, I don't know, strong people. I don't know what the genesis of this would be, but she developed this habit of answering in a very flowery, fancy way, and not, putting this word salad together, not answering the question. I don't know whether she doesn't feel confident that the answer she would give would be accepted by the questioner. I don't know the reason, but she can't do it. And so when she, right after the convention, and I don't know if you noticed this, they kept her hidden. They waited like a month to have her talk to any news people because they were afraid of what would happen if she did. And then at some point they had to let her talk, and it was a disaster. And that was part of the reason she lost. But the main reasons would be, first of all, she didn't make any convincing argument for her as a person to be elected. Nobody has any idea what she really thinks because she's been a radical left progressive most of her career and now claims that she isn't like that anymore. But she would never answer a question about why she wasn't like that anymore. And then she wouldn't differentiate herself from Joe Biden. I don't know if you've noticed that, but she was asked specifically on a show called The View here. They said, "What would you do different than Joe Biden?" And she said, "I can't think of anything." Well, when you hear that, then you think, okay, she's identical with Joe Biden, and if we hate the way he's been president, we're not going to elect her. I mean, it's a pretty simple equation.
Yeah, of course.
So that brings us to the election and Trump's enormous victory. I mean, it's the greatest comeback in American political history.
One quick question before we move into Trump again. Did you see the earrings thing? Is that real? I saw like some...
I doubt it. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists in the United States. I don't know how many there are in Germany, but there's a lot of people here that don't trust anything.
Oh, okay.
And so I saw the earring thing, and I saw something that said that isn't on the market yet, which means she couldn't have it. And I also wondered, how could a person be talking to her during or right before an answer she's supposed to give and make it make sense to her. It would be too hard to pull that off unless unless you knew the questions ahead of time, which she may have. So I didn't believe that.
Well, one thing's for sure, she's not wearing those earrings ever again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Sorry, we're going back to Trump.
Well, so Trump got elected. It's the greatest comeback in American political history because it's a person who was down and out and had been president once and who was defeated and had everything thrown at him in between that defeat and this election, and he convinced the American people to elect him again. So it's an amazing story.
Oh, it is. It is. But I would say Trump's story is amazing, even if you take the whole second turn election part, like he's growing up, his family business, all his New York endeavors. Like they just made a movie out of him recently with Sebastian Stan. I haven't watched it yet, but his life itself is already feels like a movie, even if you take out all the political stuff. And I mean, gosh, that's an amazing comeback. Like if you agree with him, with what he's proposing or not, like just that the assassination attempts, and like he's rising back with his fist in the air and yelling, "Fight, fight, fight!" Like this is raw confidence. You can see like this guy is for real. He's not faking it, and that's one of the things that I think people value in leaders. Like they are genuinely themselves and they are there fighting with you, and that's what at least what this famous picture, now famous, convey to the whole world. That's what it feels like, that it looks like. It remains to be seen, because one thing's for sure, the Trump that we're getting now, from what I can tell, is not the same Trump that we had in the first term. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, well, the main difference is he trusted other people to recommend who he should hire, and they turned out to be disloyal people that worked against him. Now, if you notice, every one of the cabinet picks is a absolute loyalist to Trump and will do what he wants and not try to undermine his administration. So it will be very different.
Well, who he has on his side right now? It's Elon Musk for sure. Like the famous. There's Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I have on the top of my head. But I mean, I know from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Like I followed a lot of his content for a while. Man, he has a mission, and the mission is to make America healthy again, and I think he was also running for presidency, and then he dropped in order to support Trump, right?
Yes, correct.
And
the other thing about this is this new Trump administration is going to be very interesting. Apart from the fact that he's going to have loyalists working for him, so he's going to be able to tear down parts of the bureaucracy, but there's the whole Elon Musk, VivekRamaswamy, and Robert Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, for example. These are all people who are Democrats that gave up the Democratic Party, but they're interested in the greatness of the United States. So the DOGE thing that Elon's putting together sounds fantastic, because they're going to go through with a knife and cut out parts of the bureaucracy and save money, because the bureaucracy is bloated and fossilized and wastes enormous amount of money. You can't fire anybody. It's just like this fourth branch of government that no one controls. And it has to be brought into line, basically. And Elon would be the guy to do it.
Yeah, so for those who are listening and are not familiar with what we're talking about, there's this new Department of Government Efficiency. I think that's what it's called.
DOGE.
DOGE.
DOGE. DOGE.
DOGE, which will be led by Elon Musk and Vivek. What's his name?
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. Okay, and they will ensure that taxpayer money is actually being spent on useful things, because, as you mentioned, like there's so much waste So much waste, so much. Apparently, some of those organizations within the government, they waste money on purpose in order to justify getting more money the next year,
Yes.
which is insane for me. That's
Yes.
and Elon Musk.
Well, I don't know if you read this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't know if you read this, but it's fascinating that he's going to put the DOGE activities on a website. It has its own website, and he's going to list on it every department that they're analyzing, and he's going to show the raw data. Like this department has 17,300 people, and its budget is $2.7 billion, and this is what the money is used for. And they're going to then look at good use versus bad use and get rid of all the programs that are wasting money. The day that he first announced DOGE, I'm pretty active on Twitter, and the day he announced DOGE, he said, please respond to me with programs that you think are a waste of money. And hundreds of people responded. Like the federal government spent $3 million to give mice fentanyl and fight with each other to see what would happen.
No, come on, you're joking. What?
Yeah. No, it was a research study. Yeah.
That's insane. So they give rats fentanyl so they can fight each other. And how much money they spend on this?
I want to see how aggressive they are and all that, because they're trying to mimic the way humans behave on fentanyl. But it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. So many things. And I mean, the people in academia often invent research to do because they want to get funded. So nobody looks at whether the results were useful or not.
I see.
But Robert Kennedy, I mean, we've had a problem in this country, probably a bigger problem than Europe, because I hear things like foods that are banned in Europe or ingredients can be put in our foods here. I don't understand that. If it's banned in Europe, it should be banned in here because somebody in Europe did the research and found out it was dangerous. So, but no one here in 50 years is worried about what we're putting in our food and whether it's dangerous or not.
So I just found this. It's from the New York Times. What foods are banned in Europe but not banned in the US? The European Union prohibits many foods additives, and various drugs are widely used in American foods. Some foods, like those found in this grocery store in France, don't contain food additives that would otherwise be allowed in foods in the United States. Okay, so it's a long text. I'm not going to read it all. So BHA and BHT, brominated vegetable oil. So yellow food dye is number 5 and red dye number 4. So I would assume those are all unhealthy and bad for you, right? I think that's the bottom line.
Well, the European community has decided they're dangerous. So Robert Kennedy is on a mission to have all of those things banned in Europe, removed from our food, because we have an epidemic of disease in the United States, not only obesity, but things like autism and depression and various other maladies that could be partly attributable to the food we're eating.
Really? Gosh. Whew. But I mean, more power to Kennedy. But you correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as understanding the U.S., the food department and the drug department, they are one. They're controlled by the same people. Is that the case?
The Food and Drug Administration, one department, but it's under HHS, Health and Human Services, which is the bigger organization.
I see. So if, again, correct me if I'm wrong, if everything falls under the same organization, them having more fat people, more obese people, more sick people is lucrative for them. They're feeding this. Yes. They're creating an unhealthy system in order to make more money.
Yeah,
it looks so clear, light as day. Why no one is like correcting this mess? I mean, it sounds like Kennedy would do something about it. step.
But the people don't. The people don't have the power to do that. The companies that make those bad foods line the pockets of the legislators, so they never attack them. Do you know what the food pyramid is? I don't know if you have the food pyramid in Germany or not. It's basically it's a like a triangle, and it shows how much of each type of food you should eat per day. Like, yeah, like fats should be at the top and not eat many of them. But can you increase the size of the one on the upper left that has the black in it?
Oh, okay. 1 second.
The one to the left of where you're.
Let's try to make it big. 1 second, everyone.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
All right. So we're looking at the food pyramid right now.
Can you make that bigger?
I don't think I
If
can.
you can't, doesn't matter.
I think that's the.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
The food pyramid was created by the Food and Drug Administration in the 1960s to give people recommendations on how much of different foods they should eat. Notice that at the bottom is carbs. So they're recommending that you eat the most carbs of all the other foods you eat per day. And the one at the top is fat, and you should eat the least fats. That's probably the opposite of what you should do.
Really?
Because Americans have got fat because they eat too many carbohydrates. They eat bread and cookies and cake and pie, and they drink soft drinks that have sugar in them and juice that has sugar in them and all that. And that's what's caused the obesity in the United States directly. And the reason the carbohydrates are at the bottom is because the politicians let it be put there under pressure from the manufacturers of those products.
Oh, they're getting money out of it, right?
So, right. So we're for 80 years, the United States has been operating with the wrong food model in terms of what you should eat. It's a crime.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's the food pyramid that I learned at school as well. So, whew. Yeah, I mean, so much corruption everywhere. But Michael, I want to go back about and talk a little bit more about the Trump administration and his assassination attempts. So you said those were orchestrated. Do you know?
Well, no, I might have misspoke there. I when I said there were 2 assassination attempts, I wasn't implying that the Democratic Party arranged for him to be assassinated.
Okay.
But the rhetoric they've used against him, calling him Hitler and a fascist and all that, can influence people with crazy ideas into that kind of behavior. So it's an indirect effect, not a direct effect. Given that, there are some very strange things about both assassination attempts that have never been explained, like particularly the first one. What does a 20-year-old kid do? Can a 20-year-old kid be an isolated actor in an assassination of the president? It seems unlikely. It seems like he would have connections. He would be put up to it by somebody else. There were reports that he had unnamed Swiss bank accounts.
What?
And if he did, somebody was putting money in there. That hasn't been substantiated, but the whole case has been covered up by the Secret Service and the FBI. They've never filed a report. They've never said anything about it. And then there's the whole side about why wasn't he protected? How could somebody get up on a roof 150 yards away and shoot at him without any policeman or Secret Service agents seeing that? It seems strange that is possible, that could happen. Now, I was on a podcast with a gentleman who was a former Secret Service agent, and I said to him, "Is this fishy or not?" And he said, "I don't think so. It's just super high level incompetence. Like they were disorganized. They had a coordinating meeting in the morning about the coverage during the speech. The FBI didn't show up at the Secret Service didn't show up at the meeting. So everything was done poorly, which then created an opportunity for the shooter. So I don't know about that. I mean, over the years, I've become kind of a conspiracy theorist about the Kennedy shooting because the reports that summarized and gave a reason for the assassination of President Kennedy can't be true. There are lies in there. And that still hasn't been released to the public. It's Trump. They were asking Trump to release it. And he said he might do it. I don't know if he will.
I mean, it's about time. How
there are
long
these
ago
things-
it was that? It was a long time ago. I think.
1963.
Yeah.
63. But they said when the Warren Commission completed their report, which I think was in 66 or 67, they said nobody can open this up for 50 years. So that's how we got here. And that's phony too. So I don't know. All the things that have been done to Trump have convinced me that there are bad actors in the government who do things and get away with it. So, and it's probably the same in any large capitalist state. It's probably true in Germany. It's probably true in France, UK, whatever. Because things get done, evil things get done, and they get hidden, and the people that do them are protected.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Kennedy one is super fishy. Call me a conspiracy theorist as well. I mean, why would the government would hide it and have like a ban on it for 50 years? For me, it's very clear. There's only one reason, is that because people who were involved in this whole assassination, it was are part of the government. Like, what other explanation is there? I don't see any. So,
Right.
and I mean, 50 years. Go ahead. Yeah.
The working theory is that the CIA killed him because the CIA routinely kills people on our behalf, like they go over to Europe or Asia or somewhere and they assassinate people. So they're good at it. And they had reason to hate Kennedy. His brother was Attorney General. He was trying to stop the mafia, break up the mafia, which has ties to the CIA. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they ordered that he be killed.
Yeah. And again, we were talking about Robert Kennedy Jr. earlier. Now he's with Trump. I think that's also will give him a little push into releasing the whole files, because as far as I understand, Robert Kennedy Jr. is also in favor of releasing those files. So
remember, his father was assassinated
as well.
Robert F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy Sr., his father, John F. Kennedy's brother, was assassinated in 1968.
Gosh.
He was running for president. He was at a primary event in California because it was going to be the California primary. He gave a speech, and as he was leaving the venue, he walked through a hotel, and the CIA or the Secret Service was taking him through the kitchen to go out the back door to get in a limousine, and somebody shot him. So his father was murdered, and his uncle was murdered.
God protect this man. Hopefully nothing happens. Oh my God.
Right.
All right, and he's brave. I mean, even though all of this happens, he's like heads on, full into politics. Like, that's his life. And gosh,
Right.
God protects. So, one of the things that Trump promised, if now he's elected, he said that he'll fight the deep state. What he means by that?
That's the bureaucracy that I was talking about. So the bureaucracy is the executive branch, all the departments in the executive branch that operate independently of the president, Secretary of State, Secretary of the Treasury, all that. They're supposed to take orders from the president and execute those orders. What they really do is self-serving management that only helps them, and they pretty much ignore the president. Now, they ignore all presidents. It's not just Trump, but they ignore him more because, again, he's not bribable. He's an independent actor who comes from the outside. He's supported by the people. He's not the establishment. So he's the enemy to them because if he starts breaking up departments, they're going to lose their jobs. So it's all there are 2.5 million federal workers in the United States that can't be fired. So they just do whatever they can to increase their income, protect their interests, and have a long career. So they don't act in the people's interest. And that's a problem.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you're electing those people to act on your interests. That's the whole purpose of it.
So,
go ahead. Yeah.
So part of the plan is Trump is going to try to change the classification of workers to something called Schedule F, which means instead of being a non-fireable worker, you're a fireable worker. So if we can reclassify them, then he can fire whoever he wants.
Oh.
Then he can use DOGE, the data from DOGE, to eliminate departments or parts of departments.
Okay, and the going back to the thing that they would be able to fire anyone. This would be across the board or just in certain departments?
Across the board.
Gosh, that's impressive. That's the power of an outsider, right? We were talking about Trump being an outsider. Yeah. If you're a politician, you've been in politics your whole life. No way. Like you would be doing that. Of course not. You want just to, more power, more good.
If you're an establishment politician, you want everything to keep going just like it's going because it made you rich.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that's unique about Trump. I mean, his story is unique. The comeback is unique, but he's unique in the sense that he can really make changes that no one else was interested or willing to do. The federal budget is $7 trillion a year. Elon Musk says he can cut $2 trillion out, which would be 30%.
That's what happens when we record live. And I think we're back. Test 1, 2, 3. You know what? Let's go to a quick break. Yeah, we are back. All right, so we were talking about DOGE and how Elon Musk will cut about 2 trillion, you said? I'm sorry. How much was it again?
Yeah, that's his estimate, yes.
That's impressive. I know that when he took over Twitter, now X, he also did a big cut in personnel. And, the app still runs. It's still working.
He fired 80% of the people.
Yeah. And as far as I understand, they were just promoting ideologies and agendas. That's like my view from an outside. I just read the headlines, right? I'm not sure how true of this is, but the app's still there. It's still running. It's working. So I think he did something.
Yeah, he did.
He did. All right.
Not to mention, he gave more of a right side point of view to the American people because the media is dominated by the left.
Yeah.
The left controls the universities and the mainstream media and most of social media. So his purchase of Twitter gave the right a voice that it never had before.
I heard he's planning on buying Disney next. I just want to see what will happen. Michael, going back to Trump real quick, I have one last question about him. I heard there's something called Project 25, which seems to be very divisive. Trump's
Say that again. I didn't understand the word.
I heard there's something called Project 25 that is being
Project 25, right?
Exactly. I'm sorry, Project 25.
Yeah.
And apparently it was proposed to Trump once, and he was in favor. And now he seems to be he should be distancing himself from it. So what is Project 25, and why it is so divisive?
Well, the controversy about it was created by the left as a tool to try to defeat Trump in the election. And I'll explain that, and then you can understand it.
Okay.
There is a think tank in the United States called the Heritage Foundation, and it's a conservative think tank. And the Heritage Foundation promotes the Constitution, keeping the Constitution real, not discarding the Constitution, and the design of our federal government, protecting it from people like socialists who want to change it into something else. So the Heritage Foundation published in 1980 something called Project 1980. And they've published it every year for 45 years. Same thing. It's not new. It's not a new idea. And basically what the report is every year is their recommendations for what a conservative government should look like. It's pretty ideologically conservative. So there's a lot of things on there that the left wouldn't like, and probably a lot of conservatives. I mean, my politics is I'm a conservative by DNA, but I'm a moderate in terms of the practical side. I mean, I believe in effective government, not that it has to be Republicans running it. I believe we have to have a consensus between the two sides. So Trump disavowed the Project 2025 report as crazy. I don't know whether he intends to do anything about it, but I think it has many, many things in it that he wouldn't even consider implementing.
Could you give us examples?
Religious teaching in schools.
Oh.
Big red flag for the left. I don't think Trump would. I'm pretty sure Trump wouldn't support that. No abortions allowed. They might take a position there. And our country is sort of in the middle. You know, half think it's okay, half don't. And Trump has taken a moderate position there. So those are a couple examples. Probably something having to do with textbooks and history and making sure that textbooks aren't changed to take American history out so that people can grow up understanding how the country was designed and what the Constitution means and all that stuff. Just protecting the traditions. So I don't consider it a factor in the Trump presidency. We'll see. If he does embrace anything in it, it will be only a very small part of it, in my view.
I see. Well, yeah, I can totally see how some people would consider those proposals extremely conservatives. I really like that you touched on the subject that you mentioned, like you should not like there needs to be balance, right? It's not like we need to be 100% democratic or 100% liberal. Like I think us as humans, we all want kind of the same thing at a fundamental basic level. We need food, we need good education, we need security. Like those are very basic fundamental needs that we could all agree on. And so that's something that I also don't understand as an outsider. I see that everything's very radicalized in the US. There's the extreme right and the extreme left. There's like those two two sides, and you need to pick one. Like it feels like there could be a third one in the middle that is a little bit more neutral, a little bit more balanced, but there's not, and I don't understand why. It's a two.
I'll explain it.
One last thing, I actually asked one of my friends, and they were very clear, Bruno. Like, there's nothing to understand. It's a two-partisan system, and that's it. That's what it is. Like, okay, but why? Why can't we have a third one? You know? That yeah. Go ahead.
Well, in 2000, there wasn't the tribalism that exists today. My second book was called Tribalism, The Curse of 21st Century America. I published it in 2019, and it was all about that problem. Basically, the right and left and I haven't got into this at all, but my first three books were about the genetic differences between the right and left, and they do not think alike, and they can't turn into each other. You can't take a liberal and make them into a conservative. They think differently. And so that's why I say the country has to move forward with a consensus where both sides agree on the path we take. Well, the left is very aggressive about change. They want to make change very quickly. They want equality. They love socialism, and they want to move the country in that direction. The conservatives are the opposite. The conservatives are individually oriented. They like capitalism. They like freedom of speech, etc. They resist the tendency on the left to move farther to the left to make change. So one is status quo, one is change. And so all the changes that the left forced on our country culturally because they pushed them, example, same-sex marriage, offended the right. And so the more the left has done to move the country in their direction, the more the right has reacted to and fought back. So you had these two ends of the political spectrum, 10% of the population at each end. Meanwhile, the 80% are in the middle. The 80% are like you and me, and they just want to live their lives, and you have a job and raise a family, whatever. You don't care about that ideology stuff. But the left and right ideology people have control of the media. So you listen to news reports or you follow social media, whatever, all you hear is the radical voices. And if you are weak-minded as a citizen, you think the whole country is radical. So like people on the left tend to say all white people are bigots, all white people are racist. No, they're not. There's a few on the extreme right. Most people look at what's inside of a person and not what's outside to judge whether to have a relationship with them. So you have this battle between the extremes where the ideologies are dominating the media, and that's what all you hear about. So the normal people just go on living their lives and ignore it, but you can't ignore it if it makes the country not function. We have to figure out a way to meet in the middle, and I think that will gradually happen because the public is not going to stand for this partisanship.
That's beautifully said. And and I just want to point out some things like extremism, all of those incredibly how to say, let's put it, extreme ideologies, like those generate clicks. That's what people click on, and of course they're just gonna promote more of this, and then there's this snowball effect, like this never-ending cycle. Like people just consume more, and then they have this distorted reality of the country. Whew.
You're making an excellent point. The danger and the tragedy of social media is that the platforms make money based on controversy.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
So the more controversial you are, the more clicks you might get, and the better you look. You get into the algorithm. I always tell the story, if you were a radical and you wanted to propose, blowing up the world or whatever you wanted to say, and you wanted to speak publicly about it, and 25 years ago, you had to get on a soapbox in a park and give a speech. And the only people that heard it were the people that walked by and heard it and thought, well, that guy's crazy. And then they kept walking. Now, the perpetrators of these radical views are not identified. They're just a name on a website or a tweet. No one who knows who they are. And they have their tweets go around the world. Everybody in the world can see their radical ideas, and they tend to attract other radical people, which isn't good. And they tend to get clicks because they're controversial, just like you said.
Yeah,
it's not a good thing.
It's a loud minority. Michael, I kind of ask a lot about U.S. politics, but I remember just before we went live, you asked me, could we please separate a moment to talk a little bit about German politics? I'm going to be honest, I'm the wrong guy to ask about German politics. I don't know much about it, but I would gladly try to. So, yeah.
I'm going to make it simple on you, and I'm going to make you an expert in the way I'm going to ask you the question.
All right.
Okay?
All right.
How do you feel about your country right now? Do you feel like it's in a good place, a bad place, or in the middle?
I don't know. I know there's a lot of people calling each other Nazi. I think that's not, and I think like there's a little bit exaggeration, but yeah, that's what I hear.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not giving you much to work with. I know. I don't listen too much about German politics. I'm sorry.
But do you think that your life, you can have your life under control? In other words, if you want to do something, there's no government or organization that's going to stop you. You don't think you're overtaxed and therefore you don't have any money after the taxes are taken out, or your rights are diminished. You're not allowed to speak publicly about what you believe. I mean, how do you believe about that? What do you think about that stuff?
No, I don't think about that at all. Of course, tax could be a little bit lower. Why not? But otherwise, I'm pretty content here. I'm pretty happy. I know that we do have, for example, that's something that I think it's crazy. We have like the church tax, which I think is insane. You need if you believe if when you register your address at the how to say Rathaus, it's the town. I don't know. When you register your address, you need to tell what's your religion, or if you don't have a religion. If you do have a religion, you need to pay a church tax here in Germany. I think that's insane. There's another tax, is the Mauer. The informal name is the Mauer tax, which is translated to the wall tax, and that's because after the wall in Berlin fell down, and the left part, or the West, had to pay a tax to the East in order to help them recover. And this was understandable back then, but we have it to this day. Why I'm still paying the wall tax? It's been long gone, you know? So I think overall, from what the things that you mentioned, the only thing that I would complain about is how much taxes are here, that exist here. But other than that, fine.
Okay. You're happy, so I'm happy.
I feel that's not the answer you're looking for. I'm sorry. All right, Michael. So we're reaching the 1 hour mark. I want to make sure that you tell everyone where they can find your work, your book, your website. Carry it away.
Okay, the best way to learn something about me is go to my author website, and I'd appreciate it if you would post that somewhere. Very simple, MikeAndersonsBooks.com. That's it. So it's Anderson with an S on it and books with an S. And I can email that to you. So, but it's got all my books there. You could buy a book through my author site. There are podcasts there. You know, maybe I'll put your podcast up there. And so you'll be seen around the world. I've got, I write on Substack. So I've got Substack articles there. So you can learn a lot about me if you just go to one place.
Beautiful. We're going to make sure to leave the link on the description below. Mike, do you have any final remarks, anything else that you'd like to say before we say goodbye?
No, I thoroughly enjoyed this. You asked a lot of good questions. I mean, it was interesting how your questions were formulated because you're not American. So your point of view is different. So the questions are presented in a different way, and I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much. It was very, very interesting. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, Michael. All right, everyone. Again, if you're listening, if you're watching, you can win this awesome cap. It can be yours. All you have to do is subscribe, and you might win it. It's the second giveaway that we're doing in the channel. We did one last month, and this one will happen the end of January 2024, 25 next year, the end of January 2025. And subscribe. All you have to do is subscribe. It's very easy. Subscribe, everyone. All right, that's been it. Thank you so much again, Michael. It was a pleasure, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the Brewcast store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with Brewcast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a Brewcast model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy Brewcast. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing Brewcast merch, or watching an episode of the show and send it to us and become part of Brewcast. We'll feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.